Hello everyone, thanks for joining me for another video at Jay Jarvis Life Coaching. Today's topic, we're going to talk about passion and interests and really kind of delve into some of that. And to do that, I kind of want to tell you a little bit of a story. So as I was growing up, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that, I wanted to be firefighter, police officer, pilot, and if you wanted to believe what my grandmother thought, preacher, because I always had my hands like this as if I was in prayer, and every time she would undo them, they would inevitably find their way back to this position. So her thoughts were, hey, maybe he'll become a preacher or a priest or whatever. Pastor's probably more appropriate given that I'm not Catholic. But inevitably she would say, oh yeah, you're going to be a preacher because your hands are like this. And as I was growing older and as I was really kind of thinking and reflecting and all of those things, I realized that everything that I wanted to be as a child, really at the core of it, was helping people. So as I grew older, and started really kind of thinking what I wanted to do with my adult life, it became very clear that whatever that it is that I'm going to do had to involve helping people. And not helping people in a sense of, hey, go ahead and go to aisle 4, the butter is in the second shelf on the right, but more substantial help, like helping people through recovery, helping people through anxiety, helping people through depression. And as I was going through my own depression and my own anxiety and all of that, I started gaining those skills to learn, okay, this is what I can do to help myself with this and therefore help other people that way. And so as that naturally progressed, my adult self said, okay, I need to help people, and I think that is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I started working in behavioral health, and as I worked in behavioral health and as I started to kind of dive into what it is that is behavioral health and what that all entails, it became much clearer and would make much more sense that that's something that I wanted to do. And as that became something that I wanted to do with my life, I started developing my skills and I started realizing that I had natural gifts when it comes to helping people, and that was really what I was supposed to be doing. And then after that, I sort of started shaping my dream of wanting to be a licensed therapist to assist people, to help people through their anxiety, their depression, their PTSD, all of those things, not only because I thought that was necessary, but also because I had experience going through that myself, so it made it easier to relate to people. So that's what I'm working on right now, to get the appropriate licensure and degree and everything so I can do that. And in that process, it became very clear that some of the values that I had as far as that's concerned is, helping people or using my story to help people is really what that was supposed to be about. And so that's kind of, my commitment going forward is using my own story. And there's a lot to my own story that I will probably share at a later time, using that story to help other people go through their rough patches or their rock bottoms and everything like that, because I know how it feels to be at that rock bottom, but I don't want other people to have to experience that if I can prevent that from happening. So as we were kind of just talking, I kind of took you into the 6 key elements that can ignite passion, by both remembering them and living in alignment with them. And I'll tell you what those are in just a second. But as far as passion is concerned, right, there are things in life that we just absolutely love to do, things that we naturally feel drawn to, activities that we lose ourselves in and that we're just kind of getting in the flow of and really kind of have a hard time stopping. And there are things that we're passionate about that inspire us, that get us all riled up, like I mentioned earlier, helping others. And in search of that purpose, an important place to really start looking at that is those very things that I just mentioned about, the things that are getting us riled up and inspire us. And purpose implies meaning. And it also implies that it's kind of something that we were made to do. So as you're looking at your life purpose and looking at developing your life purpose, it's those things that you want to look at. And oftentimes, if we really, really pay attention, we instinctually or intuitively already know that those are the things that we're made for. Because we can usually feel it, and there's an inner nudge that kind of pulls us towards those things, the things that we're naturally and truly passionate about. And as I mentioned earlier, as I kind of taking you through the story, there are 6 key elements to igniting the passion, and those are childhood wonder. And if you recall, what I said about that, excuse my dog, is that, wondering about being a fireman, a police officer, a pilot, and, then my grandmother suggesting that I could be a priest. The second thing is adult passion. And that's where I was talking about getting into behavioral health and kind of knowing those things and learning about those things, because as I reflected, I realized I was supposed to be helping people. Then gifts, my gifts is number 3 key element, and gifts meaning, the ability or the natural ability to help people, the natural ability to listen to people and get information from that will then help them. Then the next one is your dreams, and dreams meaning, what is it that you want to do in life? Like I said, in my portion of the story is that I wanted to become a licensed therapist, and that was my dream. And I'm working on licensure and the appropriate degree that I need to complete that. And then values is the next one, and then commitment is the next one. And values, like I said, I kind of briefly touched on helping people, making sure people are safe, doing no harm, etc. And then commitment is, continuing to help people with any new skills or any new training or new education that I'm getting, because that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So what I want to do now is kind of take us through some of those elements and kind of talk a bit more about those, because I feel like having that information is kind of important. And the first thing, again, I wanted to share is childhood wonder, as that's the first key element to igniting your passion that I was talking about initially. And the fact is that you can get a lot of powerful insight into your true nature and your natural interests by really just kind of reflecting on what you were inspired by as a child. They really these kind of wonders existed much before you developed any sort of filter through which to see the world, due to the influence of others or limiting beliefs that were developed as you grew up due to the influence of others. Oftentimes, natural talents, inclinations, interests were lost along the way because for some reason or another, somebody in your life said that those are not practical, or those are not realistic, those are not worthy, those are not the types of things that you should be worrying about. So really, because of that, you might not have even been given a chance to sort of explore that stuff through free play, through experience, through self-directed time, etc., and so on. But the good news is, you've always known at your very inner level what it is that you want to do and what it is that, you're inspired by. And those childhood passions and those childhood pleasures often can bring new life into our adult world. So we kind of want to think about that, and maybe other times old inspirations no longer serve us. And that's also something that you need to consider. But what I wanted to kind of ask, and this is something that you can answer for yourself, it's more of a statement than it is a question, but think about when you were a child. And think about when you were a child, what is it that you wanted to do when you grew up? Like I mentioned, for me, it was firefighter, police officer, pilot, And then if it was after my grandmother, it would have been priest, preacher, or whatever. And I really encourage you to take some time to do that. Do it either now and pause the video, or do it after the video, but just kind of think about, okay, this is what I really wanted to do, and see how that may have developed in your life. Are you doing that now? Or did you stop thinking about that because somebody said that it's not good or whatever? So then the next thing is your passion. What do you love? And the reason that's number 2 is because it kind of builds upon the childhood wonder aspect. Now that you recalled kind of the things that you wanted to do when you were a child, let's add to the list by looking at what's currently, right this very moment, an inspiration to you. And the way that we can do that is by asking us for writing a response to the following type of prompts. The first one being, the activities I do currently that bring me pleasure include, and I'll say that again, the activities I do currently that bring me pleasure include blank. So currently, like I was mentioning in my story earlier, and I'm using my story because this is a very one-sided video and you can't really interact, but I'm going to use my portion of the story so that way you kind of have an idea. So the activity I do that currently bring me pleasure includes helping people. And the way I do that is by YouTube videos, by life coaching sessions, by the intern counseling that I'm doing right now, or just in general out there in the world helping people doing whatever. The activities I know I love that I may not currently be doing but would like to do include, and I didn't share that earlier, so I'm going to share that with you again. So for me, myself, and I, that would be, reading more or writing more. I really do like writing because it's a creative expression of my brain, and my brain is all over the place. So it's kind of interesting, the kind of things that I can come up with, but I really don't do as much of it as I would like. And then the third is the other aspects of life that bring me joy, excitement, and that energize me are. So what is it right now that brings me joy, excitement, and energize me that are not already mentioned? And for that purpose, I would say hanging out with my dog, hanging out with my significant other, hanging out with friends, watching YouTube videos online. I watch a lot of YouTube videos and so on. So those are the kind of aspects that we could be looking for, that energize you. And the key again is that energizes you, because we're looking for that passion. And then kind of thinking about things in terms of, in my life, I've been passionate about. So what is something that you've already been passionate about? Something that you're kind of already experienced, that you were passionate about, and either are doing or are not doing, and something that maybe you want to continue, want to pick back up, and again, take some time to answer that. For me, myself, and I, it would simply be walking out in nature barefoot. I like doing that. I was very passionate about that because it helps me. It helps my self-care. Or again, I used to enjoy being out in the yard and just kind of doing some yard work. It's kind of hard to do that in Arizona, for being completely honest, because Arizona is super hot, especially in the summer. So right now, so it makes it kind of difficult. But I'm looking forward possibly to starting to do some of that again in the fall and see how that works out when it's a little bit cooler than it is now. And so really that's kind of, in a nutshell, the 6 key elements to igniting your passion that we can kind of start investigating. So again, we talked about when I was a child, what is it that I wanted to do when I grew up. We talked about some of the activities that currently bring pleasure. We talked about some of the activities that you might not be currently doing, but you would like to do. Some other aspects of life that bring you joy, excitement, and energize you. And then something that you've previously been passionate about. And then the next thing is, like, what is it that you currently have to offer? What are some of those gifts and those things that one of those other elements that we talked about? And you really, the key is you feel most alive and passionate about things when you're doing the things that you are made for. And you'll know that fairly quickly because, things make you excited, things make you happy, things rile you up, things are just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to continue doing this. That's kind of, where you realize that maybe that's a passion. And, for that purpose, you really want to kind of spend some time just examining what some of your talents are and some of the qualities that you have are, and to kind of see, okay, well, what works best, what works better, what am I and what's my qualities like, okay? And some of those ideas and some of the direction that I want to take this in, I'm going to share with you. So your best qualities could include, being humorous. I know I really enjoy laughing and I really enjoy making jokes. I'm awesome at dad jokes, I think. Nobody else thinks that, but I do. I'm very enthusiastic about things. That's another value that, you could kind of consider. Are you comforting? Are you determined? Are you intelligent, gentle, kind? Are you courageous? Are you direct? Do you inspire? Are you supportive? Optimistic, visionary, compassionate, flexible, entertaining, knowledgeable, and so on. So there's all these values that you could think about and look into and see if you really are, and kind of go from there. And then you kind of are going to ask yourself things like, okay, so, I am most myself when? What is the activity that you do where you feel most yourself? And most yourself means at peace or, riled up or excited about things. So when are you most yourself? And I feel like deep down in my heart, talking about me, I feel most myself when I have the ability to help other people with something. Help them through, their depression, through their darkest hours. That's when I feel most myself. What makes me feel in the flow is another question you can kind of ask in terms of trying to get to the gifts that you have. So what makes you feel in the flow? Like, I'm in the flow when I'm helping people, when I'm talking to people, when I'm making sure people are taken care of, when I have some sort of an impact on somebody else's life. That's when I feel like I'm in the flow. What comes easy for me that may be hard for others? Again, talking about your gifts. And again, if I were talking about me, what comes easy for me is talking to people. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy having deep conversations beyond, hey, how's it going? Because it forms a connection between me and that other person that is different and deeper than just surface level, hey, how's it going? It's going, whatever, and so on, right? That, I feel like that comes easy for me, even though I'm kind of an introvert, and that might be harder for other people. Again, so the things to think about here is, what are your qualities? What are you most yourself when you do it? What makes you feel like you're in the flow, and what comes easy for you but might be hard for others? Then we're going to talk about dreams. What is it that you really want? And the thing is, your dreams really are calling you. The true you, the one that we're pursuing, already knows what those things are and never really stops dreaming. You may not remember, you may not know, but it's there. And the key to unlocking both your passion and your purpose is to really allow yourself to remember dreams and go for them. And some of the ways that you can start really thinking about that, and you can start really investigating that further, is by asking yourself, if I could have anything I want, what would it be? Now, a lot of people are going to be like, I want $1 million and I want that, but is that truly what you want? I know that, yeah, $1 million could most definitely be helpful, and that is definitely something that I want, but that's not really what I want. What I actually want is to continue to be there for people, to continue to help people, make people's lives better, and preventing people from having to experience those deep, dark, rock bottom type situations. And of course, again, $1 million would be great. And maybe something else that I was kind of thinking about that could be a dream of mine is, becoming a comedian. I think I'm fairly funny. Everybody else you talk to may not think that. But it's kind of interesting to see the things that you want versus what other people think. But you can't let other people affect what it is that you want in the first place, right? So then, if I could do anything that I want, what would it be? And really, we're not talking what is within the realm of possibility right now. We're talking anything on this earth that you want to do, what is it? And I firmly 100,000% believe for myself that what it is that I want, or that to do, is be a licensed therapist, life coach, hopefully one day a fairly successful speaker, and really be able to affect other people positively with the things that I do and say. And then you go into the second to last key aspect, which is values. What is it that you stand for? And I will tell you this before we go any further. Knowing what your beliefs and your values are is fundamental to anything else that you do. Again, knowing your values and beliefs is fundamental to anything and everything else going forward, because that provides your foundation. It helps you establish your identity, especially for those of us who may be a little bit younger, between the ages of 18 and 25, called transitional age youth, and they may struggle with identity. So the first stop is really the values and the beliefs, and then you can proceed from there. And sometimes passion, really, in that aspect, is something that may boil your blood. They might tug at your heartstrings because you really truly care about them. And based on your values and ideals about life, you end up wanting the world to be a better place in specific ways. Turning that into greater values can unleash your passion. Like I was mentioning, I like helping people. When I see people in distress, when I see kids specifically being abused or in distress or whatever, victims of physical abuse, emotional abuse, whatever kind of abuse, it tugs at my heartstrings and it really hurts me. And I want to help. And I'm always gonna want to help, and I always will help as much as I can. And that's how I know that that's really a passion of mine. So the way to kind of get to your values is, what is something that I would like to change in the world? It's a good question to ask. And I'll tell you this. For me, what I would like to change in the world is the way that people, first of all, are treated by others. But second of all, I would like to change the fact that people have to go through so many bad experiences in order to, get to where they need to go. I would love to be able to take a person and take them from point A to point B without going through point A and a half, which is the valley, which is where all the shit stuff happens, to get to point B. I would love to be able to make that a straight line and say, you know what, all this shit could happen to you, but luckily it won't, so you're going to go from point A to point B. Is that realistic? Who knows? But I won't know unless I try, right? And then so the second question within, getting to your values is, in what way can I be the change that I want to see in the world? And again, for myself, since you can't answer me, but for myself, it's really about becoming that licensed therapist, continuing to be a life coach, continuing to offer opportunities to change things in other people's lives or help people through difficulties in their life for them to become a better self. That's how I can be the change that I want to see in the world. And then the third question within the value segment is really, what do I stand for? And that's a hard question to answer for a lot of folks. What do I stand for? And it's, first of all, a very philosophical question, but it's also a very important question to answer when it comes to your values. What do I stand for? I stand for social justice. I stand for everybody having equal rights under the law. I stand for everyone having an opportunity to better their life and being given the opportunity to do that, and not being discriminated against just because of the color of their skin or ethnicity or access to education or whatever have you. That's what I stand for. And that's what I will continue to stand for, because that will help people. That will make a difference in people's lives. That's what I stand for. But I encourage you really, and out of those three questions, I think that is the biggest question. That is the hardest question to answer, especially if you're not really sure. So that's going to be the question that requires a lot of thinking and a lot of reflection. But again, to get to values, the three questions are, what would I like to change in the world? In what way can I be the change that I want to see in the world? And what do I stand for? And then lastly, we're going to talk about commitment. How can I live in integrity? That's really the big, encompassing question. And to get to that, you can say, or you can really kind of look at these next three prompts that I have and answer them completely, fully, honestly, and truly, and you'll get to the deeper meaning of how can I live life in integrity. And the first aspect is the aspects of my life that I am committed to. Blank. And you can answer that question. So the aspects of my life I am committed to is helping people, becoming a therapist, continuing to life coach, continuing to get education that will further my knowledge base for being a therapist and life coach, committed to my significant other, etc., and so on. So there's a lot of aspects that you could probably list here, but I don't want to do all of them because then we'll be here for another hour and a half. The values, dreams, gifts, and passions that I am committed to fulfilling in my life. Blank. And I've already talked about those in great detail, but I want you to consider what your value, dreams, gifts, passions that you are committed to fulfilling in your life actually are. And again, that could be one of those difficult questions, one of those more deeper questions to answer. But again, the answer to that will get you to the integrity and to living life in integrity. And then lastly, what would it take for me to be living in integrity? Now, integrity is really important. Integrity, ethics, honesty, blah, blah, blah. Because in order to truly be passionate and to truly have a purpose in life and truly know what the overarching purpose of life is, you have to be living in integrity. When you become a therapist, when you become a counselor, there's a huge code of ethics that they ask you to follow. And the overall message that you receive is, do no harm. And living by that code of ethics and adapting that code of ethics to your personal life, for me anyway, it helps me live in integrity. It helps me to be living truthful, honest, with integrity each and every day. Even though sometimes it'll be difficult. I'm not going to say that living in integrity is the easiest thing that you could possibly do, but it is worth it, and it helps you on your path to passion, and it helps you on your path to understanding your life's purpose. With that, I want to thank you for watching today. I know it's a little bit longer than my usual videos, but it's very important that we've covered this today. And as always, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, anything, leave the comments in the comments. Please consider sharing if you felt that the message that I conveyed was important or was meaningful to you. And if you are a new person watching my videos, please consider subscribing so you can stay up to date on the latest and greatest things that I have to offer. And as I said before, my contact information is in that very first video that I produced, the introduction to Jay Jarvis Life Coaching. I look forward to hearing from you via those mediums as well. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.